Namaste. Thank you for being here with us. We are so blessed to be here today with you, watching. And I learned so much from these channelings in terms of your questions and how and what you ask is always incredible for me. So I would love to introduce to you my lovely colleague, Candace Craw-Goldman. She is going to be fielding the questions today, as she often does so well. And again, I'm honored to have her. I'll let her introduce herself in terms of her background with Dolores and why I specifically choose her, especially for Dolores channelings. She's the perfect questioner because she knows Dolores so much more than I, and quite frankly, more than many people do. So tell us a little bit about your background with Dolores, if you don't mind, and your lovely sign back there, quantumhealingpractitioners.com, how that got started. And I always like to start out talking about your background and our background together.
All right. Well, thank you. So for those of you who don't know me, I met Dolores in 2008. And the whole thing was so magical, it was hard to even believe. My life changed on a dime after meeting that woman. And I began doing her work instantaneously. And very soon after taking the class with her, I began supporting her and assisting her, first by just creating an informal chat group, eventually assisting her in her live classes and in her advanced programs. Our support form moved to a professional bulletin board. We helped thousands of practitioners. We retained hundreds of them. We became independent about a year after Dolores's death because those who were distributing Dolores's classes no longer aligned with what we were doing. And we weren't sure we were going to be able to survive, but not only have we survived, and we've moved on and we've expanded. I met Pamela because somebody said, "Have you seen this lady channeling Dolores?" And I was like kind of like a little pit bull. I was very protective, and I came at Pamela kind of as a challenge, sort of like, "Okay, you're channeling Dolores, yeah, okay." But almost instantaneously, we became fast friends. And I like the way that Pamela described it, I think, in another interview like this. You'd said that sometimes Dolores will say something, in our minds, and then we will talk very shortly thereafter and say, "She just said, I know, she just said." So we compare notes like that. And Pamela's a far more gifted channel and medium than I am, but I can hear Dolores, and what we hear matches. So this is why this is so much fun for both of us.
Except that you'll always say, "I'm not channeling, I'm listening."
I'm not channeling, I'm listening. Yes, and Dolores used to say, "When I die, I'm not letting anyone channel me." She used to say that in class. And forgive me if I'm wrong, but if you plan on trance channeling today, this will be the first time. The other channeling has been the clear conscious channeling.
Yeah, I am both. I'm a clear conscious channel, which means I have no particular control over when I channel as a clear conscious channel. We're like lightning rods, just like waiting on lightning to come down. We're just conduits, so things come all the time, and it's not incredibly choice ridden. But when you trance channel, what you do is you do something a little bit different. When I'm clear conscious channeling, I love it because I kind of get to interact with her, and me, Pamela, gets to kind of listen to what she's saying and respond to it and have my own thoughts about it, which is fun, but it can be a little draining. Um, not necessarily with her, but with any being. So with clear conscious channeling, it's a little bit more of a direct line. So I feel like it's a different experience because it's not me listening to her and then having her come through me and then telling you what she said. A medium listens and repeats. Sometimes I listen and repeat, but most of the time as a clear conscious channel, I bring them in and then my mouth opens and they start talking through my body, which is fun, but I always have these human reactions, and I'm always kind of like trying not to respond and trying to just let it come through without having any ego. And that's somewhat hard to do because, quite frankly, she's hilarious at times and she doesn't think she's hilarious. And I start laughing and she's like, I'm telling you something important. And I'm like, okay. So I'm one of those. I'm one of those little students who is joyful and giddy and can't quite get out of my own way. So I'm interested in seeing how she comes through for us in trance and how that works. But I will be out of the way. And Candace, it's completely on you at this point. What I'm going to do, guys, is just take a few moments to go into trance. And if for any reason my microphone blows up, which often happens in Dolores channelings, my ears are already ringing. So that's her way of telling me it probably will happen. If my microphone blows and you hear interesting noises, just type it in the chat so that Candace can see it because she's the one fielding that and monitoring it. And then you can just let her know. And then she has to wake me up. So if that happens, she will say, please awaken the channel, which is my cue to any entity to come back. It takes me a few minutes to come back. And then I got to fix the problem and then put myself back into trance. But I'm pretty quick at all that. So let's get going. Are you ready?
I'm writing down my phrase, please awaken the channel.
Yeah.
Right.
And if for any reason something goes wrong, my house catches fire, those are times you need to wake me up because I literally will not know. I had to go to the bathroom once really badly. And I think it was Saint Germain, and he was like, you gotta awaken the channel now. Luckily, that wasn't a public channeling.
Oh, bless your heart. I think some of Dolores' humor is coming through already.
Yeah. Yeah, that's why I'm going to go into trance. Turn off my phone, get all the little nicks and crannies and disturbing technologies out of the way. Good. All right, so. Thank you for being here. My birthday's coming up. And now that I don't necessarily believe in birth, how will you say happy birthday? I've never believed in death, and that's been apparent from the start. What do you want to talk about today?
Hi, Dolores. So
Of
many
course,
of us,
it would be you.
So many of us miss you so much. So many of us feel a great heart connection with you, even though you are in another reality state than us here. We love you very much, so let's start with that.
Yes, but I'm in your reality state whenever you welcome me in. We don't just leave.
Agreed. So let's talk about how it is that we can hear you. I have often said, I say it a lot actually, that you are easier to hear and to talk to now than you were when you were incarnated. Is that a true statement that I've been saying to so many people?
The conscious mind can be such a wall, and it can literally become a block in some instances. And when this is the case, then it doesn't feel that we are speaking from our true nature. And how can we, when the mind says you're one thing and the spirit says another? It can be confusing when you are incarnated. And that's why we speak through the subconscious, so that we can learn all of these things. I found it difficult to speak and allow my subconscious to merge with my mind when I was embodied. And this isn't so much the case anymore. So, of course, it would be easier to speak with me because I'm, quite frankly, to put it simply, more me. And when you feel that, we connect at the hearts, and then you feel more you.
Another thing that I have said is that it seemed that you were making that connection with your subconscious or your greater aspect when you were being interviewed, or when you were teaching, or when you were on stage. Is that a true statement?
Dare we call that channeling? But such is the case that if you're more relaxed and you're really in your role, and I was in a role to investigate, to research, to find out what was real and true for each of you, but behind the scenes to find out what was real and true for myself. And so many instances of researching something on this side of the veil, we view all of that as separation. So it's easier to connect now, and it would be as if you are experiencing me at a seminar or a teaching or at an event, in a class. My conscious
there a
mind can
way-
get out of the way more when I feel more myself, when the head's not getting in the way.
Well, speaking of heads getting in the way, a lot of people ask, sometimes they're practitioners, sometimes they're clients, sometimes they're just fans of yours. They ask, how can they determine if they're truly connected to your authentic energy or not? Always sort of asking and doubting, I know, but do you have anything new to say about that?
Oh, humans are always going to be questioning themselves. How would you feel in hypnosis? How would you feel if you were regressed when you reach a sudden and subtle component of your personality where the doubter, the critical you, gets out of the way? If that is the case, then you can trust what's coming through. But the question shouldn't be, are you connecting to me? The question should be, in the beginning, are you connecting to you? And that was my role to begin with, just to connect you to yourselves more thoroughly. And if this is the foundation, then you will trust and know when you're connecting to me.
That's a beautiful answer. Thank you so much. So, as you know, I continue to support your practitioners and those who continue to learn from you via your videos, either the official class videos or your YouTube videos. And there's some questions that people have. They wonder about your viewpoint now that you've passed as a teacher of this method of quantum healing. And so one real basic question is, towards the latter part of your career and teaching live, you suggested that a client really need ever have only one session with a quantum practitioner, and that was it. But many of us, as a matter of fact, most of the practitioners, we like to experience this connection with our deeper aspects, and we take advantage of that by knowing other practitioners and swapping sessions a lot, and we enjoy that. And some clients enjoy that as well. But many people remember your suggestion or your, I don't even know, your dictate that one session was all you needed. What do you have to say about this idea? One session is all you need.
Well, yes, and that could be the case if you were following the intention of the session. But what then? Is there not always another inquiry? Is there not always a deeper problem, and then another problem could arise, and then another, and then another, and then what? Humans will always create more that they will perceive as wrong. So if you are arriving into your session with your practitioner and saying, well, okay, some other problem has arisen, that means you are learning more. And it is simply a blueprint to your very being. Of course, you want to know, and you're always going to want to know more. But my concern at that time was that you would become addicted to the practice and then not rely on yourselves. And this would be the case in any modality, any practice. It is not so much of a concern now. At this point, as long as you manage yourselves and you understand that you can go within, with or without this particular technique, with or without this particular practice, if you are managing yourselves functionally in your lives, then there isn't so much of a need to know. And it's something that I've accessed from beyond the veil, that we don't always need to know everything. You just want to. That's fine as well. And there are many ways to access this knowledge other than my practice and technique. There are many ways to access the knowledge simply in your meditations and in your daily practices that you choose. Don't become addicted to any practice, and then it should serve the purpose and connect more to yourselves. In other words, do what you wish and understand that you can go within in any technique and any modality. Don't give your power away to anyone, not even as a practitioner. If you're a client, whatever the case may be, simply don't hand over your power to another being, because then what can you do to access it yourselves?
Very good, thank you. Here's a question from a brand new QHHT practitioner. Lori Fox asks, are you, Dolores, working directly with them now, them in quotation marks in the air that you used to say, now in regards of helping practitioners? She's newly certified and things are coming together for her quite quickly. She wants to know if this is a coincidence or not, and if you're working closely with them or they.
Oh dear, did you believe that the work stops? I've expressed that I don't die, nor do I believe in death, and when embodied, even with the death experienced, I believe firmly that you had to go through that experience, and there would be no such harm within the death experience. In the human mind, you believe that it's necessary, but on the other side of the veil, we don't perceive this separation. We don't perceive that knowledge stops. We don't perceive that we should be separated from you. And why would my teaching stop? Why would this purpose stop? Simply because my spirit slipped on out of the body, because that's what happens. There's no, despite my particular sickness prior to my, if you want to call it death from the human existence, when I was out of the body, it felt good immediately. And I don't stop my teaching simply because I'm in a different form.
That's really great, Dolores, because we love you and we love you teaching us and guiding us. So here's a question about the afterlife. I've had this question myself. I think we might have asked it in another way before. But is the afterlife what you expected? Have you had a conversation with the big guy or gal, in parentheses God? I think you have, because of information you've given, Pamela. If so, how was it? So what do you have to say about God, Dolores? We all want to know. And what about that afterlife?
Yeah, you want to know, but heavens, it's nothing that I would have experienced or taught about when in a body. Heavens, no. And it's so vast. It's hard to explain when you feel that you're limited by your human mind. And I'll attempt. First of all, God is in a separate form. I didn't go meet a big man upstairs anywhere. I didn't have to make any spiritual travels up a mountain. I did have an afterlife review, and I saw a version of me looking at me. And the first thing I noticed was a veil of energy, and I could see a mirror of myself talking to me in a calm, loving voice. And I realized I had never experienced love for myself in this way. And perhaps when in my body, I wasn't focused on me at all. And this was one of the first things that came up in my review, that my focus was external. My love was for the world, but rarely for myself. So within that, there was no pearly gates. There wasn't. As for those of you who have read my many teachings and books, the experiences just don't roll out that way. And when you pass, even, there's not pain. I didn't experience that. At the moment of my passing, even, my spirit just slipped out, and it feels like you're sitting in another chair. Your spirit just slips out, and you're looking at yourself, and God is you. And I didn't see any particular deities or presences. I saw the many versions of me, and I recognized every single one of them. And it was amazing because it was in full alignment with the many stories and many regressions of people seeing themselves in different forms, except that they weren't fully recognizing themselves completely. Some of them, anyway. And at times one may say, I'm a star, and now I'm a mountain, and now I'm a being of some sort, and now I'm something that I don't even recognize. When I left this world, I began to recognize the many versions of myself. And it was fascinating, and it was love. And love is something I didn't experience very often. God is not what you think or who you think. It is not a he or a she. It is not all encompassing within your religions and your paradigms and your structures. God is you, and God and the connection within God is formed when you connect to yourselves. The more knowledge of love, the more knowledge of truth, the more knowledge of grace, the more unity and the less separation, the easier it is.
Dolores, you spent a great deal of time teaching your practitioners how to talk to their clients about how their clients needed to love and accept themselves. Did you really not think that applied to you and your life as a human? Did you really miss that in your own human life?
Oh dear, don't you believe it would be easier stated than achieved in one's reality to experience love in a way that is fully given and received? Receiving was not my greatest virtue. But I found through the other side of the veil and the knowledge that immediately arose within me was that I could stand. If in human form, if I were to come back, which I'm not certain at this point that I would, but if that would be the case, I would need to receive more. The teachings were there and they were coming from my higher self, but I did not integrate them into my human self.
Dolores, I like this next question from Carolina. how much of your personality do you still retain from your incarnations? From where I sit, you seem to retain a lot of it from your previous Dolores incarnation. But how about some of your other incarnations, or just the concept in general? What do you have to say about that?
Oh, that is all choice. There are contracts that we have before we would come into a body, even. And that will is followed because the nature of self, the nature of the subconscious, and as you call it, the soul, many people call it this, you can choose this or not to carry forth this personality. And I choose this personality because you accept it as such. And how would you recognize me otherwise? There's a limitation in the human mind that does not permit the recognition of a person's self. Your human self will only recognize a third dimensional aspect of me with a third dimensional personality. So that happens to be the projection that I embody today so that you would recognize me. And that is choice.
Very good. Thank you. So another question about where you are in your afterlife. Is it just some place beautiful and indescribable? And while you're at it, can you tell us your galactic origin point?
Where am I not might be the question. I have reunited and integrated with all aspects of me that were previously thought to be separated, which is what the human mind does, mind you. But thereafter, when you're faced square up with the truth, it's easier. And you realize in the moment of a breath, the blink of an eye, the intention set from the heart that you can go wherever you wish, then you realize you are also simultaneously creating those worlds. And the theory of parallel existence is ever present. I can be with many of you simultaneously. I can be me here, me in the other lifetime. Time is not relevant where I am. And from this side of the veil, you understand, oh, this was a part of a past that I firmly believed would exist. And I can experience it or re experience it at will at any given point in time of my choice. It's quite easy, and you can do the same the less you form a belief in separate thought.
Does that mean that you reach back into moments of this incarnation as the human Dolores and experience moments of it frequently? And if so, which moments did you pick? If we may be so bold to ask.
I don't have a need to experience those human moments, but sometimes you do. And I'll allow yourselves to have dreams of me and to recreate those moments so that you can re experience the most beautiful times in your lives where you connected to you through my teachings. And for some reason, this continues to serve you. So I honor that and recreate those experiences as your mind insists upon it. It formulates a connection with this aspect of me that you remember and love most. And then you seem to connect with yourselves better. And of course, those moments are times when I was teaching, very, very beginning times, when many of you were regressed and trying to feel and connect to who you are.
I believe in a previous channeling, the information came forth that you were connected, very connected, of practitioners or others, perhaps potential practitioners, over 1,000. So the question is being asked, how can we know as healers if we are one of these over 1,000 that you are connecting to and guiding right now?
If you seek the work, I am there. And that is quite simply put the answer until you begin to doubt and criticize yourselves. And when human ego interrupts in that manner, then you are not in that moment. And then when you believe you are, then you are again in that moment. When will you cease the doubting of yourselves?
Very good. Dolores, when you were teaching, this is my own interpretation, but you had a resistance to the technology as it improved and became easier, faster, et cetera, you held on to using cassette tapes long past the time that anyone even knew how to really play them, etc. I wonder about your vision or view of our current technology and humans being so comfortable with this kind of technology, this connection using and devices this way. I wonder what you might have to say about all of the uses or ways that we connect with this technology, and to speak about what I believe was your own resistance to some of this.
The exciting thing about accessing very profound levels of yourself is that you can gather a lot of research, a ton of information about what you may believe is the future. I believe it's a parallel version of you, a nature of yourselves that would be more integrated, rather. But either way, I had a knowingness, and I would not have called it intuition when I was embodied, but it was, quite frankly, a knowingness from my levels of experience of regression, from what I could tell about the future, from what you have shown me in your sessions and your regressions, your moments and times with me, and from my experiences as well. I had very mixed feelings about it. And you're correct. I was not a proponent. I would not have advocated for this, but it has had its many benefits and it has had its many detriments. And as you would suspect, I'd say, I can't give you an answer. For many of you, you require the personal human connection. My concern about technology, not just in my techniques, but in many of your techniques, is that technology can be a deterrent. It can disconnect you from your hearts, from your human connections, that can thwart your levels of trust. And if you do not establish that as a foundation to any session, technology as its foundation or not.
Okay, we've lost sound. Let's try again. Speak. Please awaken the channel. We've lost your sound. Got you back.
Yeah, we have two of us.
Did we
Okay.
lose that one?
Did we have an interruption or something?
We did.
Okay.
We
I
lost
need
your
to go back
sound.
in trance. Got it. Give me a minute.
All right, I'm going to check to make sure. Are we all still on? So if those of you in chat could let us know if you could hear us both right now.
And you see what technology just did.
You did it, Dolores. I bet you did it.
You would be quick to make that blame. That association. Returning to, let me think, where did you leave off when technology interrupted and proved my point? It can be beneficial. It can be detrimental. And you really, as practitioners, need to make the decision based upon your clients. I'll give you an instance where it was recently beneficial for one of you. For this channel and this practitioner, many clients would come who have experiences of extreme post-traumatic stress, extreme anxieties, and in this case, they are resistant to hypnosis. And in that case, then technology becomes a buffer zone. There's too much intimate contact. That client requires trust by some levels of separation. And in this case, technology may be a benefit. In some cases, a client may feel that they cannot be hypnotized because you are not close enough. And this lack of intimate connection can thwart the process of trust. And in that case, it would be beneficial for that client to hold an in-person session with you, the practitioner. Do you understand?
Absolutely. Thank you for being so clear about that. I have found in some of my sessions online that there are some people whose performance anxiety goes down when they're sitting on their own sofa in their own home. So perhaps a benefit for some, but not a benefit for all. And as you said before, it's knowing your client and knowing yourself as a practitioner to make that determination.
There are some that have physical maladies and conditions that would prohibit them from leaving their homes, in which case, what other choice would they have? And who am I to limit them from that choice? And there are many gifted practitioners who can have the ability to form a trust bond without the need to be in person. So this also depends upon if the practitioner knows what he or she is doing. As I have stated many times when embodied as well, that this depends upon the practitioner. How talented is the practitioner? I have observed many, as you have called it, level 1 practitioners who are more comfortable, more connected to themselves and their abilities and in their practice than a level 3 practitioner. It is not about the level of training, the level of investment, the level of time. It is about the level of trust and connection that a practitioner has with themselves. If you are comfortable and you are loving and connected to yourselves, then you are going to be an excellent practitioner with or without technologies.
Here's a question that was sent in early. Can you speak on any updated information about the use of suicide to leave the three-dimensional realm? It seems to be increasing, and it seems and feels like something might have changed or expanded. This person's best friends, who is a QHHT practitioner, actually, her 18-year-old daughter recently took her life, and her spirit is coming through now. And some people say not to channel people right after a traumatic death. Is this real or is this fear? So a multi-part question about suicide and talking or channeling someone who's recently passed.
Well, let's begin with the latter example. In this situation, are you afraid for yourselves or for that person? Fear can be a detriment and a block to any information. If you're conscious, if you're stepping into your subconscious realms, whatever you're experiencing in any parallel environment, fear can and always has been a block. And this is why I advise people when speaking upon death. So many practitioners would say, don't touch that. You know, that's death and that could provide harm. And again, only if the practitioner doesn't know what they're doing. Are you confident as a practitioner that you can perhaps work with a suicidal person? Do you feel confident in the realms that death would not exist as a reality? Or are you afraid? And this could go beyond the definition of channeling or listening or any of the psychic arts. This is beyond science, even. Fear is a block to anything on any realm. And if you have fear, don't do it unless you are guided by a practitioner who trusts without fear their levels of expertise so that they can adequately and efficiently guide you through into those deeper realms. I cannot tell you that there would be a yes or a no to answer your question about whether to speak with someone from another realm who has experienced trauma, but please think more deeply about what is trauma. It is an experience that builds a person and it expands their contracts to help them see something more deeply. And if death isn't true, then why are you afraid of speaking to someone who is allegedly dead? In the nature of suicide, and regarding your former question, I cannot speak to if it would be good, if it would be bad. That is not something that I'm keen on answering. But I can say that it has its time and place, it has its reason, although it is a dramatic effect. And there are easier ways to experience your contracts than game over.
Thank you. Here's a question. Somebody asked that they've been told via some channeling that the invisibles, in quotes, need our help too. Everyone is always calling on angels, ancestors, etc. for help, and that is fine. But is it not a two-way street? What do they mean by we need your help too?
You, my dear, know this answer. You, if anyone, have often stated in your mind and not always out loud that we are connecting with each other. And we are connecting and trying to understand everything that's out there. But here's the concern. Why are we still viewing them as separate from us? Every single connection to what you believe is out there is relevant to what is in here. And it is within your very nature to question these things. I urge you, as I always have, to continue questioning everything. There is nothing wrong with these questionings. And you can continue in your deeper understandings. The more you research, the more you inquire. And it is certainly okay in every aspect of you to initially perceive something as separate. But my goal is to help you go more deeply than what your question even implied. Go ahead, you want to ask me a follow-up.
What about this fact that it just seems that it's on the rise? The suicide rate is on the rise. Is it just because we are paying attention to it? Is it?
You are more observant of it. That is correct. The statistics are very similar. And again, back to technologies. Now you have more access to those statistics.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, you have things that don't even make it into research because we did not have the technologies, even within your local police investigation departments, to deem what is suicide and what isn't. And then you have family shame, many times where that wasn't even put into your statistics as suicide back when I was informed. Not many families would be open to admitting that there would be a suicide. So you look at the research of that and the statistics of that, and it wasn't there because of lack of technology and lack of awareness, and now it is. You are more aware of it is the question. And as you stand deeper into your more expansive souls, then you will learn more about releasing your thoughts of what is good, what is bad, what is right, what is wrong, and you will understand that it is all here for your knowledge.
Here's a question about your own physical health when you were incarnated. Before you transitioned, you were ill for a short while. Did you know or have a suspicion that your time was coming up? And I will say that in talking to many people who were at your very last class in Arkansas in the fall of September, or in the fall of 2014, which happened to have been September, I myself knew that I was seeing you for the last time. When I turned around and left that auditorium, what did you know during that time? Did you know?
I did know. I didn't want to talk about it as usual. But of course I knew. And I had a particularly precarious time, especially the final 2 months of my life, and that was expected. So we knew, but not many wanted to talk about it. I certainly did not. And while the suspicion was there, I knew that this time was a time, an exit point that I wanted to take. And I was ready to see and to connect to you in a different way. And Earth is tiring. It can be exhausting when the body begins to be uncooperative. In this case, who am I to judge? Back to your questions. Who am I to judge what you are experiencing and how you die and how you choose to die? These are your contracts, and they are perfect. They have always been perfect. There are certain things about these contracts that you can't fully change, nor would I have wanted to, because I don't view death as a problem.
There were a lot of magical things that happened around the time of your death, and one was a mysterious text that showed up on my husband's cell phone. I still have a photograph of it. It was sent by nobody. It ended up in the middle of a text conversation between my husband and someone who used to be in your employment. And it simply was a text that said something like, "Bring Dolores home now." And my husband responded, "Okay," to the person he thought sent the text, even though he didn't understand that. And she said, "Okay, what?" And it was a magical thing. But who sent that text? How did that text get there? And why on my husband's cell phone?
That's a level of trust, and that would get your attention. Again, going back to the trust bond, that would get your attention. And of course, thoughts and connections of energetic light were being felt and experienced and heard by many in those exchanges. 3 humans felt that exchange. One would not step forth to the table to admit as such, but she did. I reached out to 3 people in that moment, but from the other realm, a little red bird sent the message.
Wow, that's some great information. Thank you. Very magical. So back to your method in QHHT. Here's a question about the theta brainwave state. Is it safe to say that the theta brainwave state we are looking to achieve in QHHT is the same state that we channel from, that we get information from? And so that QHHT, or BQH now, is similar to guiding our clients to channel their own information.
Yes and no. There are so many various lines of connection, if you will. We will use this as a bit of an example. If you are an electrician, you understand my analogy. If you were to peel back the core of an electric wire and you look at the many fibers within the wire, and many, many hundreds of fibers, of various types of metals, some copper, very conducive, would wrap around each other. And then there is a covering, normally rubber or something to that effect, that would be protective and grounding. And then there would be hundreds of other wires and a cover, and then hundreds of other wires and a cover. And then you string the three together, and that particularly forms a type of connection. Mind, for one, but what level of mind? From the other realm, I've observed that there are 3 levels of the human egoic mind. I would not have gleaned this information embodied. It's too much to wrap your mind around, if you will. And then there's the other wire. This is spirit. And this is a heart-centered connection that you feel. And if you don't trust it, the mind matters not. And then there is soul, which in my embodied form I called subconscious. From many realms of paradigms and religions, you call it many things. So there are various connections within you. And observing that connection, identifying that connection, getting familiarized with what level you're connecting on is incredibly helpful, because the mind connection would not always be helpful in the conscious form. In its egoic wavelengths, it deters the other 2 wires, if you will, from fully connecting to each other.
Okay, as a practitioner, I'm going to have to jump on this 3 levels of human egoic mind. Can you name them, describe them, tell us how knowing about them may assist us in helping others?
There would be an etheric level, a rather subetheric level, and then a baseline egoic level. And it's not in that order. It's not one before the other. It's just about how you manage your particular level of awareness, how you observe what you think and what you feel and what you know, because each level of your mind will access either what you think, what you feel, or what you know. Knowing is trust, and it supersedes all human senses. When you connect to knowing, there isn't a feeling attached. When you connect to feeling, knowing can be attached or not. If feeling is in connection, but the knowing is not, and you are doubting, you are likely connecting to this, the ego, wire number 1, that has the least amount of truth in its connection. Yeah, so we cannot always trust this level of connection of the egoic mind. And when there would be feeling with knowing, then this would be a level of soul that you can trust, and you immediately formulate a higher connection to self. When I was embodied, I called this subconscious. Feeling is operative, but without knowing, it is nothing.
Very good, beautiful. Thank you so much. I think that's going to be very helpful for a lot of people. We will be talking about that for a very long time. I'm almost sure of it. Excuse me. Here's a question about being the player in the game and the creator of the game too. You used to call it the producer and the director and the actor of your own movie. Can we help change the game for the better from the creator perspective? Maybe help with less painful waking up processes so that everyone, for everyone to who they really are, aspects of creator in this game.
In your analogy, to follow it, if pain is experienced by the actor is within the egoic mind, who is simply a reflector of the soul's choices and contracts. Therefore, if we place too much separation, too much invalidation, and no structure at all to the actor, while he or she is managing the ego and reflecting this movie back to us, then we are not honoring our contracts. That pain is there to serve you And when it is serving your contracts, you thank it. You connect to it as opposed to trying to make it go away. Many humans live their entire human existences, their entire lives, trying to make everything different. When you do this, you don't leave that first wire of connection. You don't ever step out of the role of the actor to see that you are producing everything that that actor is creating, and that there's a part of you in your subconscious that is telling that actor what to say, what to think, and what to feel. So when you step out of the pain long enough to thank the producer for his or her hard work and efforts, you are going back to the electrical wire theory on wire number 2. You are stepping into the lower levels of the subconscious that can at least identify and observe the actor. So this is the producer. This is soul. The producer is soul. The entire director of the movie would be spirit. And if you observe it from this standpoint, spirit isn't thinking about pain. Spirit is thinking, oh, this is me experiencing me. Look at this beautiful play. Look at all of the textures and colors and roles. Look at all of the theories. Look at this. This is beautiful. The director is saying, okay, you're experiencing a bit much pain. Perhaps you can stop that for a moment. You're experiencing a bit much drama. Okay, that, or perhaps that isn't quite enough. The producer and the director, they are interchangeable. And when you understand how to disidentify from your pain enough to understand your roles, then you will be observing yourself playing those roles without attachments or judgments of those roles. When you release the attachments to the roles, and the director can help you with that, when you release the judgments of these roles that you're experiencing, and the producer can help you with that, then you understand connection and that all of the roles are the same. You are the actor, you are the producer, you are the director. But until then, you simply observe. And in order to do that, you must disidentify from the need to be right. When you release the need to be right, you are listening. And when you are listening, and if right now it is to me, then so be it. But when you preferably are listening to yourself, not to be right, but you listen to the role, perhaps in a moment where someone has offended you and you want to show them who's the boss. You want to show them that you're right and that they're wrong and that they have misunderstood you, or whatever the explanation or the excuse may be. In that moment, you are the actor and they are the producer, saying, hey, wait a minute, you're in pain. I'm trying to show you something. So I'm going to say something or do something that's going to make you angry. And when that occurs, you're going to listen to me, hopefully. But if you're over here going, oh, don't make me angry, that hurts, then you're not listening. The pain is there to get your attention to listen.
There's 2 questions here that have been sent in that are, I think, possibly so similar you might answer them together. One is, how can we best empower someone to know that they have a magnificent soul, but they feel very lost and very narrow views about why we are here? The second question, very close, from someone who says they live on a reservation and the collective in her area or his area carries a lot of disempowerment, anger, grief, shame, etc. Do you have advice for these particular challenges and how we can help heal and uplift others where all of these things, mental abuse, illness, poverty, and addictions, are so strong? How do we help others who feel lost or suffer from some of these ways of living?
Place yourselves, and the only way to listen to someone is to place yourselves in their shoes. And it sounds, dear, that you are in that person's shoes, but to an extent of observing without always taking this as your truth. The issue becomes accountability. When will you cease to believe that you are responsible for another person's contract? Simply because they're your ancestors, would that make you responsible? No, that makes you connected. Compassion is your answer. Compassion and human connection, being present for another person, building their trust, and then simply listening enough to understand is all that they need. If you fix the problem, you are the enabler, not the healer.
Very good. You had a very unique way of being a compassionate person, Dolores, because you were very abrupt and matter of fact, but people loved that about you. And I saw how compassionate you were as a human. And that heart, human heart of yours, that compassionate heart of yours is still beloved by so many humans. All right, so Dolores, here's a question about, again, about practitioners and your method. Ruby G asks, what would you have to say to those of you who've learned your QHHT training and have a desire to add their own technique, but fear doing that because of what you might think?
Because of what I may think?
That was what Ruby asked. There may be people about other thoughts, but she asked about what you thought.
I heard the question, but I implore you to go deeper than the question, as I've often stated here today. Why are you concerned about what I may think? Why are you accountable? And why do you need my validation and approval for what your heart wants to do? You don't need my validation. I can give it to you, but I won't. How would that help?
I think a lot of people want to honor you and honor the dictates you made clear in your human incarnation and are still struggling with that.
If you hold yourself to any rules, any regulations, any human rules in particular, those are boundaries that can become a prison. Don't seek to honor me. Honor yourselves, for when you honor yourselves, you're definitely honoring me. You always are honoring me if you are following your passions, your goals. If you're questioning, then you're honoring me. If you're honoring yourselves, then you're honoring me. If you are following yourselves, then you too follow me.
Wonderful. So Dolores, what do you think about the new project concept called Beyond Quantum Healing?
Everything should always inquire beyond. What is beyond anything? The question, to continue to inquire, to continue to allow, to continue to connect the dots of this fascinating puzzle in this universe. This is the most beautiful, although arduous, universe where you are expanding continually and ever presently. You are there amongst me, and I am there amongst you. We cannot be separate, but we can always seek to go beyond.
That's such a magnificent phrase, connect the dots. I can't tell you how many people have shown up here in my wellness studio because they've either had a dream, a vision, a meditation, or something where they got a communication from you using that phrase. So to hear that from you right now is special for me and a lot of people that I get to go tell when we're done with this channeling. Thank you for that gift. Okay, so here's a question. Actually, I'm going to combine it with who contacted me today for a session. Carolyn asks for QHHT practitioners, do you still not recommend that we do sessions with people who have schizophrenia? She asked for alcoholism, but a practitioner has been doing sessions on people with alcoholism from the beginning, so I'm not sure where that comes from, but the schizophrenia for sure. And the person who contacted me was telling me she has spent, but she feels she's moved past it. She has spent a considerable time of her life, 2 separate years actually, even, dissociative identity disorder. So I think the question may be from me in 2 parts. This, is it true that it's all right to deal with people with alcoholism? I believe you'll say yes. But the second, the schizophrenia or the dissociative issues mentally, what might you say about those issues today?
Most of humanity has a problem with lack of connection. Schizophrenics can at times have a problem with being attached to disconnection. They long for more of it. If, as a practitioner, your main goal is to allow them to understand and validate and to feel connected to these aspects of themselves of which they hold no understanding, this can be very beneficial. But at what cost? This can become a very tricky question and a very tricky answer. I cannot advise it. I cannot simply say avoid it, but I can say that every unique being is different. Each of you are built differently in these ways. And for the more integrated schizophrenics, if you would care to call them that, then perhaps they would be ready. And for those who are of a threat to hurt themselves or another being, and if you feel qualified enough to make that distinction and discernment, then by all means guide them through, but most of you will not. And there is a distinct line of separation when a person is of harm to themselves and of others, when you need to say, this is beyond my professional and ethical spiritual scope of awareness. This is beyond what I can do as a practitioner at this point if the person could be harmful to themselves or others. If you suspect that, and if you also simultaneously suspect that you are not qualified to be safe for that person, then don't do it. Do you feel safe with it or not? This is a lot to take on and to ask of our practitioners. And sometimes it's too much because a non-schizophrenic person is ready to integrate, validate, accept, formulate an approval and love for all of their aspects as one. A non-integrated spiritual nature of schizophrenia can mean that that person is learning from separation and addicted to not validating and being incredibly harmful to those aspects of themselves that require healing. And this is helpful for their contracts, but not helpful for the practitioner. You cannot help that person because their level of helping themselves means that they want to stay disassociated and unintegrated. That serves their higher selves. And this is hard for us to wrap our minds around right now. I understand your question. It is not a simple answer.
It's a really great answer. Thank you so much. There's a really fun question here I want to find. Let me see. It's about whether or not you might write another book by channeling through somebody else. What do you think of that idea? I don't have it right in front of me, but I know that I read that and I wanted to ask that question. What do you think about contacting someone and go ahead and writing another book?
I'm not for or against it. We'll see what happens, and it hasn't crossed my threshold to do it yet.
Very good. Thank you so much. There's another question about, there it is. Yes, there's so much we could learn from you. We're learning from you in this way. There's another question about your books here. I'm trying to find it. Okay, you said you feel different now than in some ways than in some of the books you wrote. What should we know now that is different from what you wrote in your books?
The primary difference is that I see above and beyond human mind, and I see through a filter of heart. And within this connection, I understand how humans want to connect to each other more and to themselves more. And I understand the deeper connection beyond what is currently written about. It all goes back to heart, to spirit, and spirit is everything. Also, I see a deeper connection with different learning styles, different learning patterns. And those learning styles involve different levels of beings who you would call extraterrestrials. Some of them are capable of empathy. You would call this sentience. Some are capable of learning without any heart connection. Therefore, we rely upon a greater sense of ethics to determine a bond of trust with this being, or to simply observe from a distance. There are various patterns of learning. Some are connected through heart, and you had called this sentient. Some are not.
Very good. Thank you. Here is a question about peace. The path to peace, which Nick calls 5D, within the self is different for everyone. Can you explain the commonalities of the process for incarnate humans?
The basic commonality for the majority of humans in your collective would arise when you understand duality and that peace is not present at first. You do not feel its nature at first. For within the laws of polarity in your universe, you would seek to understand the contrast, to accept it, and to make peace with the fact that you are at contrast with yourselves and each other. And when you become peaceful with this and you accept every aspect of your surroundings, you become the peace. And you, as gods, since we meant to talk about that today, would then be the change that you wish to see in a non-peaceful.
Oh, I think we've lost sound again. We are almost through all of the questions, though. You want to try to reconnect? Should we awaken the channel? Please awaken the channel to adjust your sound. We only have a couple of questions left, Pamela. And we've been on for a little longer than an hour. But we lost your sound again.
I know, she woke me up.
We really only have maybe 2 or 3 more questions, and we're
Okay.
an hour and 10 in. So you're
Okay. Yeah,
you're
we
ready.
can go back to it. That's fine.
Okay.
She was waking me up probably about half a minute ago, 40 seconds ago or so. Okay, hang on again. Returning to your question about the universe, which is you, which is God. And that's all that I really wanted to say at the base of all of these questions is that you are God. We all had to meet together to talk about that one simple thing until you asked about peace. In your minds, that's very complicated, but it's simple from where I stand. You are that peace. You hold a contract before coming into a body to come down and to show a dualistic universe what peace is. And then the whole time when you're forgetting, In that forgetting, you'll say, oh, everything that I want is peaceful. Why can't I just have it? That's because you are it and you have forgotten this. When you understand that nothing has gone wrong, there is nothing to forgive. Forgiveness isn't relevant if everything is right. And when you stop looking for the wrong, that creates a bridge of acceptance into a higher consciousness and connects you to all parallel realms within all other universes. And that is how you can help all of the other entities that you asked about prior. How do you help your spirit guides and ancestors? By being the best you. Yes, they do need your help. They are learning from you how to be in these dualistic environments, how to forget and then remember your God self again. And this is not about religion, never has been, never will be. This is about you, the glorious nature of the human. Yes, I know it's painful. I had to come back into trance to experience this and to share it with you. I am aware that you are in pain. I'm aware that you're suffering. But the moment you trust it, you trust that death doesn't exist, you are reborn. And there is nothing but peace. All the beauty that I've talked about through this channel and others, you can experience that peace too. And that was my biggest message today.
And there's no faking trust, is there? You either have it or you don't. Here's a question, I think, that goes along with that peace question. How do we utilize our heart chakra portal to support what is the greatest and highest good?
All these words that you humans use. Chakras and meridian points and this technique and that technique, and it's all beautiful and fascinating. Just love. Love yourselves, love other people, follow by the ethics that I have presented to you many times. And what I've learned very quickly about different universes is that they have an order to things. That order is called universal law. Every universe that I've ever explored and researched has one. Learn yours. There are 7 universal laws. Some are mutable, some are not. But within the 7 immutable laws, learn them, adapt them to your lives, and understand them. And then everything that you seek will become relevant.
Here's a question about karma and soul contracts. Are they changing? What will happen to the karma of the global shadow elite? Do they have ways to escape this karma? Thanks.
Of course they do not. Did you think that they didn't have contracts and that there would not be a natural consequence? That there would not be an effect to every cause as per the laws in your universe? Consider the law of cause and effect. What would be a natural consequence for being egoic jerks for the majority of your lifetimes in this era? It's quite significant. Karma. Yes, there's something significant that changed some 17 years ago or more. And that means that you have chosen to no longer punish yourselves with it. Therefore, when you, as you state, carry something over in these contracts, is because you chose to. You no longer have to. Do you see the difference?
Very good. Okay, we're down to the last couple questions. Why are there non-sentient beings? What's the purpose of that?
Why is there a sentient being? Why are there various learning styles? That is like coming to a teacher and saying, why do you teach in this particular way? Consider the human styles of learning. Auditory, you are listening. Perhaps you're more visual and you need to see something. Perhaps you're more action oriented and you need to do it yourselves before you can learn it. There are learning styles. throughout the various levels of your existence, and that is all that it is. The why is because you sought to learn something in a different way, and that is all.
Do you have any information about the use of sound in healing?
How much time do you have? You are sound. Every sound that is experienced is a component of you. Everything is relevant. Sound is the most important part of your existence. Speech, even what you say to each other, if spoken from heart, can be healing. If spoken from ego and meanness and revenge, can be very destructive. Sound in the use of instruments and the use of your beautiful music. It's magical. What do you wish to do with it? It is in your hands. It is you. Everything is connected to a divine current of sound that is omnipresent.
The sound of your human voice and melody is coming through this channel. Speaking of sound, sounds very much like you. Here's a question from Pat G. Would the fear of pain be the thing that most are afraid of before they die? Is it the pain people are afraid of?
The fear of the pain and the suffering in relation to that, yes, that is the biggest concern. But there is no suffering. As I've stated to you many times when in form and now when in spirit, it's as simple as just slipping on out. You just sit in another chair and then you see yourselves. That quick.
Okay, here's the very last question. What are your advice for brand new quantum healing practitioners of any modality?
Be open. If any paradigm, if any technique, if any process modality limits you, then it is not for you. How can you learn if there is a closed door around you or above you or behind you? Pay very close attention to this when choosing or creating your modalities.
Thank you so much. That is my goal with Beyond Quantum Healing, is that it's more of a concept. There will be a modality wrapped in within that concept, but that concept is going to be kind of like an open source concept, something much different than what might be expected.
And that's
all right.
Change the world.
I think we're done with all of the questions. Do you have any parting statement or message you'd like to give before we end our session with this channel?
I think we've said well enough. And I can
we do this again, Dolores? It was so much fun.
You're always so full of joy. And now I can feel it. Thank you. It's always like waking up from a nap. Give me a second.
Sure.
It's like being asleep.
That was amazing.
Good.
That was so amazing. It was like talking to Dolores, for sure. Even her accent came out with you.
Oh, gosh.
You'll have fun listening to it.
Oh, man.
There's that open throat and sort of the melodic southern drawl.
I have so her videos. Is that how she talks?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, that's fun.
You sounded, yeah, her voice came out. Her voice came out.
That normally doesn't happen with trance channeling. I sound like just like the southern person that I always am.
That was amazing, Pamela.
Well, thank you for
got through almost every question that there was. Candace Stubblefield, you got that one in right as Pamela was coming out of it. So we didn't ask your question, but we got just about all questions that were sent in and written on the chat.
Wonderful. So. All right. Well, thank you guys for being here today. You can find Candace. She is a wonderful practitioner and teacher, and I can't wait until she's offering the Beyond Quantum Healing and the Quantum Alchemy practices. I'm very excited about it. So you can find her at quantumhealingpractitioners.com, and I really believe in her and what she's presenting to the world. So I'm excited to be working with her in the future as well, this upcoming spring. And you can find me for private channelings or for more of these type of channelings when you're looking for live interactions, and to be able to ask your questions and get them fielded to me or to whatever entity we're channeling. You can do that and also be a part of spiritual development classes and live Q&As and things of that nature at patreon.com. That's patreon.com/Pamela Aaralyn. And you can find me for private sessions and private channelings at aurareader.com, and more extensive classes there as well that are recorded. But for all the live stuff, we like Patreon because it's more fun. And we get to be a little family. So
it's amazing over there, by the way. I cannot tell you how my gifts are expanding in the last several weeks and couple months from.
Well, that's the fun thing about channeling, is that I just get to teach everybody what all these beautiful beings are teaching me, and I just get to give it to you guys. And Patreon keeps it super low cost, so that's what's
super amazing. Yeah. Super amazing. Some really great things coming out from you, Pamela. Your community loves you. I love you. Thank you for your trust and asking me to do this with you again. And I can't wait to do it again.
I can't wait. We'll see what's coming up. I have a feeling that it might be a couple of different collectives. I just have that feeling. And particularly, I know that what's been hovering, oh, that's a fun little, great. Now I'm talking to the bee collective. So what's hovering over me are a bunch of bees, and they want to talk.
I got that. I love the bees. I chose the bees until I had the dream about the dogs last night.
I had that dream too, so they must be talking as well.
Wow.
I saw you in my dream talking to dogs, and I was just observing your dream. So I was dreaming about observing you.
No way.
So I woke up going, okay, I guess Canine Collective is about to show up.
That's so amazing. And my horses got loose last night. In the middle of the night, I had to go round up horses. They got loose they didn't get loose out on the road. They got loose within the farm, but not where they were supposed to be. But I came back in and went to sleep, and then I had this dream about these dogs.
Oh no!
Giving me this amazing information that I have no idea what they were telling. And then after that, listen to this, because our mutual friend Michelle Walling, she had a dream about a basement in her father's house. And after I dreamt about the dogs, I dreamt about my dad's house and the pipe work underneath his house.
We're all connected.
Isn't that just so amazing? It's just astonishing.
We're all just getting closer and closer as human beings, and our light bodies are connecting our human selves. It's amazing.
So much fun too, especially in your community. Thank you, dear.
Thank you. All right, I'm going to stop the live cast now. Thank you, guys.
Bye, everyone.